Hello all, welcome to another video with me, Varun, on Tech Tablet. In this video, we will be looking at the part two. That is, we'll be understanding what is SAP UI5 Fiori. We'll only be looking at the front end part of it. Again, this video is very important from interview perspective, also from your preparation perspective. And also, if you're a beginner, I think this video is something you should take up. However, if you're experienced and you're just looking, for basic hands-on practice or looking to, solve some queries, I don't think it's necessary for you. But for the rest of you who is, planning to learn this technology for the first time, then I think you should probably check out this video, understand what is UI5 and Fiori, and then probably, take or go ahead with it. So now, without wasting time, let us, quickly understand what is SAP UI5 Fiori. Again, for all those of you who are doubting, this is a completely free course. This is, powered by Tech Tablet. And in this specific series, we are trying to post the whole course on SAP UI5, which starts with an understanding of what is SAP, what is UI5, what is Fiori, what is OData, to creating an application using all these services or tools or technologies. So without wasting, let's get into understanding what is SAP UI5 and Fiori separately. So firstly, when we talk of UI5, it is a JS framework. It was developed by SAP, obviously, and it provides a very rich set of libraries for creating responsive, cross-platform, and business-oriented applications. All right. It also has, different features like it uses JavaScript, like you have HTML for the front end, you have XML for the front end, I mean the view, JavaScript for the controller, and you have OData, which acts as a middleware. Then it also provides maximum flexibility. So here, please understand that when you're working on SAP UI5, it gives you a great flexibility for any of your custom requirements. So you can, probably change or, modify or add features as per your requirements. And it is very suitable for complex and bespoke applications. Then the different features, again, these features are very, very important when we start working on the practical part. So it has an MVC architecture. So firstly, let us understand what MVC architecture is. So here, if you can see, I have, pulled up an image from Google, which talks about what MVC is. So here you have a model, view, and a controller. As you can see, it's a triangular kind of a, setup or a structure wherein the view would be data binding with the model, while every user action that happens through the front end or through the as an end user on the page goes to the controller and then into the view, and it binds with the model. And this is kind of a circular pattern. Okay, I mean, you can look at n number of images. So here you can see this is another image. Yeah. So when you work on the view, it has to notify the model, and also the control is triggered at the same time. So it is, a two-way process. Again, there are different types of binding that happen. You have one-way binding, two-way binding. One-way binding is, that space wherein the data only goes from front end to back end. In two-way, it goes from front end to back end and back end to front end as well. So yeah, that is what we mean by MVC architecture. Then we can, bind the data. We have data binding. We have responsive design. Now, when I say responsive design, you can use the same view for a mobile, for a tablet, for a laptop, for a desktop. So it's very responsive. It basically, adapts to different devices very comfortably. Then you can use different themes. You have, a couple of themes available with SAP. You're free to use them, or you're also free to, kind of, change any of those if you want. Followed by, you can integrate with, OData or any other service from SAP. Then you have pretty rich controls. Again, I will be talking about each of these a bit in detail. Now, when we talk about the different features of UI5, firstly, it has a great UI5, control set. Now, when what I mean by say, what I mean to say by this is, You have good number of elements like tables, charts, forms, lists. I mean, I have written down a few here. You can just go to the page, that is sap.hana.toolkit.com, and I think there you should be able to find too many options. And the second thing is the controls are adaptive and responsive. This is what we talked about in the previous slide. I told you that you have a very responsive control set. It has an MVC architecture, model view control. We already discussed about this. It is pretty easy to manage with this kind of architecture when you have multiple screens or multiple views that are needed. Then you have different types of binding. You have property binding, you have element level binding, and aggregation binding. We look at each of these in detail when we go into the front end, hands-on part. And this data, this front end can support JSON data, XML data, and OData. So yeah, you can use any of these. Talking of device responsiveness, you can very comfortably use SAP UI5 on a desktop, mobile, or on tablet, and no separate coding is needed. You're just free to use it as and when you want. Then you have adaptive UI controls that automatically adjust to the screen size. I think that is what responsiveness means. Then you have extensibility. What do we mean by extensibility is the app can be modified without you having to, change or rework on the entire code again. You can use custom codes also when the standard ones do not feel good enough for you. So that is one beautiful feature that you have. Then you have OData support, wherein you have something called as SAP Gateway. We'll be looking at what this is when we go into the OData part. The T code is SCGW, but yeah, we'll have an understanding of what it means when we start working on that. With OData, you can support or you can enable the real-time data binding, wherein the data is coming and flowing backwards on a real-time basis when the end user is actually working on the product. You have routing and navigation. Routing, which is used when you want to change the view. It could be a single view, it could be multiple views, it could be a single screen or split screen. You might, again, there are different types of, routing and navigation available. So yeah, we can declare that in manifest.json. Then you have internalization. Again, you can also use multiple languages. Now, let us say your customer is based out of Germany or something, then it's not very difficult for them to, change the language into German with the help of I18, I18 or I8N or internationalization. Again, they all are the same. And it's pretty easy to maintain language property files. You just have to write the conversion text, and it'll take care of the rest. Now, when we talk of architecture, again, you might have a few questions from this in an interview. Firstly, the framework is SAP UI5, which is based on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Talking of the controls, you have a plethora of controls, probably many more beyond what you can think of. They're all pre-built. You just have to, be able to use them. Then you have theming. As I said, SAP has a couple of themes available. You don't have too many themes that you can choose from. But yes, you have, as compared to earlier, probably 3 or 4 years back, we have a couple of, diverse themes available. They're completely different from each other, and they are, good on the eye. So yeah, theming is also available. Now, when we talk of the MVC pattern, I already told you that on the client side or on the front end side, you have an MVC architecture, wherein model is the backend, view is the UI, which takes care, which is written in XML or HTML, and then you have the controller. Controller basically connects the, view to the model and ensures that the handling part or the logic part is, written or is printed here in JS. Now, talking of the middleware, which is the OData part. Now, OData uses REST protocol, or it's like an API, and it is to communicate between the front end and back end, which is ABAP, and front end technologies, which is XML or HTML or JS or whatever. And to be able to do things in a secured way, you have something called as data binding. Data binding, what it basically does is it exposes the backend data as open data, which can be consumed by the front end systems. Okay, and this is done through a secure methodology, which we will be looking at eventually. Now, the next thing that I would be talking about is the backend layer, which is ABAP, or which is your different business objects like sales orders or customer employees, which are again stored in the SAP repository. So you would be extracting these. OData would be exposing these to the front end, and front end would be consuming this. So this is how the architecture is split. So the security or the safety is maintained. And here is a pictorial representation of the same. You can see that you have, when you talk of a user browser, firstly, the end user would be using it in a browser, followed by the end user trying to work on the front end application, wherein you have the UI, you have the control, or you have different themes. This would trigger the OData service via SAP Gateway, which would again in turn go into the SAP Business Suite or ERP or S4 HANA, or any of those places. Now, there are different components involved when we talk of SAP UI5. The first one is library. Okay. Now, when we talk of again, the different libraries like SAP.M, etc. SAP.M is like the leader of all the libraries. I think even when you start to use SAP, this would be the most important library that you would be using. We would look at different libraries within SAP probably as we get into coding part. Then you have the SAP Gateway. This exposes the backend data as OData. We just discussed about this. Then you have the Fiori Launchpad. Now this is the one-point entry for all your SAP UI5 Fiori applications that you're looking forward to access. And then in the backend, you have HANA and ABAP. So yeah, this is how it looks like. Now this is the thing here. So in step one, you would be using your device, which can be a mobile or a tablet. In step two, it would be getting into the client part or the browser part, wherein you have the controller view, the MVC structure basically there. And then in the third part, you would be having your resource handler and the OData part, wherein the different libraries or the different applications would get involved. Also the front end would try to communicate with the gateway server, with the REST APIs and protocols, and this would in turn fetch the data or access the data which is stored in your backend. So this is the flow of how SAP UI5 and the different layers talk or communicate with each other. Going forward, now we'll talk about SAP Fiori. Again, there's not a lot of difference between UI5 Fiori. Also, a lot of people use these words pretty interchangeably. Firstly, Fiori is also designed by SAP. However, the only difference is here you have some predefined or ready to use or pre-built templates that are designed for specific purposes, like probably sales application, or sales orders application, or different finance applications, or different inbox applications, things like these, which are common to every corporate. I think SAP Fiori has identified a few applications like that and has decided to pre-build these for the ease of developer, or to keep developers' life easy. Now, what are the features of Fiori? The first one is it is role based. It is designed for specific user roles. The second one is it is responsive. I think responsive is common to SAP UI5 and Fiori. It is very simple. Now, when we talk of SAP UI5 applications or Fiori in that case, one pretty important rule that we follow is these applications are built to be minimalistic. However, the expectation is to solve the problems. It's not just to be minimalistic and useless, but it is to be minimalistic and probably most effective, right? Then it is consistent, which is coherent. Now, what I mean by consistent, if you look at the applications that are built across different applications that are built, you see that they all have a very similar look and feel. They're basically flowing. It's You wouldn't see a major change when you change, when you shift from one application to another. It will not hit your eye or impact your view as an end user. So the coherence is maintained throughout. And finally, it is pretty delightful. Earlier things were a bit dull, but of late, I think SAP UI5 Fiori or SAP has made some major strides in changing the look and feel of front end. So yeah, this is what Fiori is all about. Now, what are the features of Fiori? First one is it is role based. When I say role based, it is to be understood that you might be from an HR department, or you might be from finance, or you might be from sales or marketing. You would have applications that are specific to your department or your domain. uh, Again, there are a few generic applications as well that are used throughout the organization. However, most of the apps are designed for a specific role, so they solve a specific functionality for the corporate. The second one is it has a very simple UI UX. Again, the goal here is to keep things as easy and as understandable as possible. It is not to keep things complicated and complex and too difficult, right? The consistency of look and feel, I told you that when we are working on SAP UI5, the goal is to keep them coherent. Now, when I say coherent, the expectation is you would have the same experience through different applications that are spread across the Fiori Launchpad. It is based on SAP UI5. Again, if there is any extensibility that comes into it, by extensibility, I mean any kind of custom design that goes into it, then I think it becomes SAP UI5 based immediately. Then you have a tile based launchpad. Now, when I say tile based launchpad, it is to be understood that, okay, let me just, quickly give you an example, or, an understanding of what is tile based. Tile-based UI in SAP UI5. So here it goes. So if you can just look at this image that is here, I'll zoom this a bit so you understand. You can see every application is very coherent looking. However, they are, in form of a tile. Now, when you access any of these elements or any of the tile, you would be, taken into an application which might probably look like this, right? So you have a tile-based launchpad wherein you would be using different applications. However, you would be using, or you would be accessing them all from your home screen, just to keep things simple, easy, and minimalistic. Finally, we're talking about the integration part. SAP has a very strong integration channel. You can work with any SAP platform, be it SAP S/4HANA, ERP, SAP Cloud, SAP, BAS. So you just got to name it and you have it. So that is what we're talking about when we are, specifying SAP UI Fiori features. Now, again, Fiori also has an architecture that it follows. Firstly, you have a launchpad, which begins with, and this launchpad, like whatever application you use, it could be a mobile or it could be through a laptop. It is role based, and when you go, or when you access any of these from the front end, you would be using, or you would be giving in your authentication, authorization, and your user roles. So no application is something that anyone can use unless the authentication, authorization, and user role permits or user role access have been given. So this is one very strong feature which ensures really good safety and security of not only tools but also employees, right? Now, when I say employees, if you are an experienced employee, then I'm sure you know what I mean by this. Well, if you're a fresher, then I think you would be knowing about what I meant here. Now, when we talk about the gateway or OData part, OData basically, or SAP Gateway, what it does is it connects the platforms, and it ensures that real-time communication is happening to and fro as and when needed. Finally, you have the backend. Here you have ECC or ERP or S4 HANA or the business suite, wherein it would contain different business objects. And yeah, again, the same architecture would follow. You have MVC. You would be accessing this. This would be taking the authentication. It would be going into the backend. It would access the elements. It would access the data. Again, the forward process would start, and the information would be consumed in the front end. So this is how SAP UI5 Fiori works. Now, the most important part. Why do companies use it? Like, what is it that they're benefiting when they use SAP UI5 or any SAP product for that case? Firstly, it improves the productivity because your task is getting completed faster. You do not need developers or tech people to every time go to the tool, open the server, access, the T codes, and all this is now cut down. So the task is completed much faster and much reliable. Because of which, obviously, your training cost is reduced. Also, do not forget that when we are using this kind of a tool, we are adhering to modern application or modern business standards, which would bring in a fresh wave of technologies. So you have modern UI UX, which can make life easier for a lot of people, because employees can now do the same thing from a mobile phone. So we are basically eliminating the barrier of going to an office or having to stay in an office to be able to do your work. And finally, it is pretty standardized. That is, one design is stitched, or one design stitches all your SAP modules. This is the most beautiful part. Now, for example, a sales manager opens a Fiori launchpad, which is your step one. He sees that there are multiple tiles or multiple applications, just to keep it in a very layman language. You have sales order tracking, you have customer overview, you have create sales order, different applications. He clicks on a tile. After he clicks on a tile, it would take him into the application, and whatever operations he does there, he would also be using the backend services, because please do not forget that the information is either retrieved or is either pushed from or into the backend, and it is not only the front end playing alone. So yeah, this is how the flow of an application works when it is understood or when it is realized in full type. Now, there are different types of applications. As you can see, you have transactional, analytical, fact sheets, and smart business type applications. Now, the first three are of prime importance, and I think most of the developers who get hired today are working on one of these applications, right? So when we talk of transactional, it is pretty task based. Like, you create a request, and the request is accepted, and the task is done. Now, when you talk of analytical applications, these are a bit different from transactional. They are more of providing real-time insights, like how much did you do in the last quarter, or what are the different KPIs to measure your employees' success, or things like these. Then you have fact sheets. These are more of contextual information related to your customers or supplies or sales or etc. These are very informative when you want to view or navigate between related objects, just to make a check. So these are the different types of Fiori applications that we have available. Now, just to give you a quick summarized comparison, SAP UI5 is more of a technological framework which needs a developer to sit and code customized. However, Fiori has certain design involved in it with a predefined UX guideline. So you're very free to extract and use. When we talk of SAP UI5, it provides a whole plethora of libraries and tools to build applications. However, when we talk of Fiori, here the application is already built. You're just talking about minimal customization. When we talk of UI5, here you have controls, you have data binding, you have MVC, you have OData. All these are pretty much involved in Fiori also. However, they majorly work on user roles. simplicity and consistency. Last but not the least, SAP UI5 is a framework that can also power Fiori applications, but it is not the other way around. Fiori applications do not power SAP UI5. So SAP UI5 any day has a greater command because you know how to build, you know how to take in the custom requirements, and you know how to work with libraries, and you know how to get things done. While Fiori is more of a pick and use, or choose and deploy kind of framework. So this is a basic understanding of what is the difference between SAP UI5 and SAP Fiori. All right. Now, I hope you have enjoyed watching the video, and if in case you have any questions left, I would really, feel very happy in answering them if I find any of them in the comment section or in the chat box. In the next video, we would be having a deeper understanding of what is ABAP and what is OData. Okay, we'll also look at the differences between them, and we'll also have an understanding of how these platforms or technologies, or how these make a difference, and what is the role of each of these technologies, right? Do not forget to subscribe. Should you have any queries, please use the comment section below. Thank you very much. You all have a good day.